Hello and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. I'm Tracy, also known as MercyTiara, and I share scrapbooking process videos, project shares, tips and tricks, unboxings, and more here on my channel. Today I'm working with the Brighter Days kit from MercyTiara Kits, and the link for that is in the description below. And I'm also going to be working with the cut files, a few of the cut files that come with the main kit. So as you can see, I have already been cutting into this kit quite a bit. I think that this is my 5th layout with this kit. I have the main kit, the extra paper add-on, the embellishment add-on, and I even have the tissue paper from the packing of the kit. I'm pulling aside a few things that I think I might want to work with for this page, and I'm starting off with the cut files. These are paper versions, like printed up versions of the JPEGs of the cut files, but what I did was I brought them into the software that goes with my scan and cut, and I just cut them out onto different colors of cardstock that actually came from my stash. So I used this yellow color, which I believe this paper is from way back a long time ago. I got it from the Scraptastic Kit Club back in the day when they were making kits, which I adored. And so I have a whole bunch of cardstock in my stash from those days, and this yellow I think was one of them. I'm pretty sure it's a basil cardstock, and it has like an orange peel texture on one side and then it has no texture on the other side. I also cut the background, like the offset, I guess, background file in Craft for the Brighter Days title. That is one of the cut files that came with this kit. And as you can see, I already have them already cut, and I just have them in my little valet trays, which are little trays that can fold flat. These files are designed by the amazingly talented Nicole Nawasad, and I love, love, love her cut files. I've used to buy them when she had a shop, and now I'm just so pleased that she's designing for our kits because I love her cuts. So I am just putting together the main cut title here. So the main kit always comes with a background file and also a title and different icons. This one came with a rainbow and some stars and a few other things. But the main attraction for me was this really beautiful Brighter Days title. I'm using Tombow Mono Aqua glue, which is one of my favorite glues for gluing paper to paper. I'm going to make a mistake here. I have that upside down and backwards, so I need to figure that out there. I knew I did it wrong. There we go. That's how it has to go. So I'm just going to put some glue there. What I like about this glue is that it does dry clear, but it also dries clear and flat. Like, it doesn't get shiny. If little bits of it ooze out, you can't see that any glue has oozed out. So I am going to, now that my title is all glued down to the background cut file that came with it, I'm going to use my .005 pen. This is a Sakura Pigma Micron pen. And I'm just going to very carefully outline the edges of this. And you can see just from doing one letter, the big difference that it makes as far as helping the title really pop out from that craft colored background. At this point, I don't really know what I'm going to be doing with my scrapbooking page, but I know it's going to have this title. And I chose yellow because I had 2 pieces of it, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to cut those sun rays with the same color. And I chose yellow because it goes with the sunrise, but it also fits with the theme of Brighter Days Ahead. My family went through a pretty stressful situation earlier this month where we were evacuated from our homes due to a terrible wildfire that was very, very close to our home. And so we had to evacuate very quickly, and we were out of our home we were displaced for 6 days. And on day 6, which was my daughter's 18th birthday, we were allowed back into our home. So we were in the middle of celebrating her birthday when we got the notice on our phones that we were allowed to go home. So we immediately stopped celebrating, packed everything up, went home, and then picked up the celebration at home. And it was one of the best birthday presents I think she could have asked for. So As you can see, I'm just outlining around the edges of this, and it makes such a big difference. Look at that. So that's a pretty good title. I'm just taking some pictures because I love the before and after, so I wanted to be able to share that on social media a little bit later if I wanted to. And I love this title, but as I mentioned, I don't know how I'm going to use it, but I also have the background cut file as well. So this is what it looks like. And I cut it out of the exact same yellow that I used for the word brighter days. And so what I thought I would do is make my layout be structured around this background cut file, which is actually a half of a 12 by 12 page instead of it being a full 12 by 12. And I really like that look. Like, I think it really kind of, it adds, it makes for something a little bit different than some of my other scrapbooking pages that have background cut files. So I love this paper that goes from blue to a greeny blue to more of a green or maybe even like a yellowy green over on the far right. And so I'm going to use that behind my cut file. I just needed to mark it so that I knew where to cut it. And I'm going to cut a little bit off of each side because I really like the blend. I like how it goes from one color to the other. And I wanted to leave just as much on both sides of each color and have the blend be centered. So that's why I cut a little bit off of each side instead of cutting just off of one side. So this is white cardstock that I'm using. It's basil white, and it's one of my favorite whites. I have a whole big package of this cardstock because I love it so much. It will be coming to the shop, so you'll be able to buy this when you buy your kit, and it will be our default white whenever white is in the kit, in the cardstock add-on. It will be this white. And I like this one because it's not too yellowy and not too bluey. It's a nice basic white. And then I saw this and I was sold. As soon as I saw this, I thought to myself, there's no need to further design. This is definitely the look I want. So I went back to my cutting mat and just grabbed the center out of that sun because I thought that it was a little distracting where it wasn't, where the sun was a cutout. And this makes it look like the sun is the rays as well, nice beautiful yellow. Now, as I said, now I have the whole layout of the page, but I don't even have a photo yet. So I just went to my computer and printed out this photo of the day of her birthday. And I like that one. I did print it up in black and white as well because I felt like that photo is awfully distracting. Like there's an awful lot of colors in it. Now, the more I look at it, the more I think those colors actually really do work well with the page. So I'm going to go back and forth and I'm going to create the whole layout as if I'm going to be using the colored photo. But at the very last minute, you'll see in the photos, I did switch it and I ended up using the black and white. So you'll see this whole page come together using the colored photo. So I could have just pieced that little cutout sun back in place, but as I was designing, I kept getting distracted by the line where the cutout was, and I didn't like it. So instead of just placing that cutout back, I'm just going to recut this whole file. So you saw me put my second piece of that yellow paper. I'm really glad that I chose a yellow that I had a couple of pieces of because it meant that I could recut that background file. And if you look really carefully, you can see the little cut in the sun, and that's what I'm trying to get rid of. While that runs through my brother's Scan and Cut, I'm just going to cut apart some of these labels. These labels are on one of the Paige Evans kits, or one of the Paige Evans papers from the Brighter Days kit, and I think they're beautiful, and they just make such a beautiful, simple embellishment that these are going to be my main embellishment for this page. Besides, of course, that elaborate cut file and the very elaborate title. So when you have such elaborate things on your page, you can get away with using more simple embellishments and whatnot. So as you can see, this is a tiny bit smaller, so I am going to have to, once again, trim down that paper. But I really like how that looks with the intact sun instead of having it cut out. I did have to manipulate the cut file, so that's not as it comes. I had to delete 2 pieces of it, and I had to kind of bumble my way through doing it. I'm not great at using my digital cutter. And so I think that you just kind of have to go in there and try your best, or Google it or YouTube it if you can't figure out how to do that. But if all else fails, you could just put the sun right back in place like I was originally doing. That probably looked fine. I'm just maybe being a little bit too much of a perfectionist here. I'm not sure. I'm looking at these Pink Fresh Studio cardstock stickers because I really love them, and they're great with the theme of the story I'm trying to tell. And of course, the colors work really well. I also really like this noted die cut from the Simple Stories die cuts that came in the main kit. So I'm thinking about using that as well. And gee, I'm just going to pick that piece of paper because I love it so much. I don't know if I'm going to use it, but it's from the kit as well. Everything here is from the kit. So again, I'm back to using that Tombow Mono Aqua glue. And like I said, it's great for paper on paper. I wouldn't use it for putting enamel pieces or sequins or wood veneer or anything like that on your page, because it's not great for gluing plastic to paper, but it's really great for paper on paper. Now that my cut file is in place on this chunk of beautiful ombre paper, I'm going with the word ombre. I don't know if that's technically an ombre, but I love it. And I am going to do some mixed media on my background. So I decided to erase some of those lines that were showing, but I made some marks so that I knew where the sun kind of started or ended, and also where the edge of the paper would be. And I'm just picking 3 colors. I'm picking a blue, a green, and a bluey green. So that mint julep in the middle is what I'm choosing to be like my middle color. And basically I want my mixed media to mimic the design paper that's on the back of the cut file. So as you can see, I had my swatches out, and I used my swatches to find my colors. The colors that I'm using, the first one, which is blue, is from Shimmers. It's Colorings, and the color is called Well Blew Me Over. Or no, Well Blew Me Down. And that's the color that I have right there. I'm just using a fan paintbrush because I might want to do some splatters too. I'm just using the packaging technique. I'm taking the ink or the mist, and I'm adding a tiny bit of water, and then I'm just smooshing it down on the page. And then I sprinkle just a little bit of splatter with my brush. I'm also using my brush to mix the color with the water. The second color I have here is called Mint Julep, and it's from Mr. Huey's Color Mist. And I'm just doing the exact same thing. And then my last color, I made a little bit of a mess there, so I'm just cleaning up. My last color is Estate Green. This is an older color, one of the original, the OG Mr. Huey's Color Mist colors. And whoo, is that ever intense? It scared me a little bit. I had some second thoughts, and I even sopped some of it up with some paper towels so there wouldn't be quite as much color. But as soon as it went on the page, I actually really liked it. It's very vivid, but most of this is going to be covered, as you can see, right? But when I covered it, I realized, oops, not quite enough of it is showing. So I went ahead and added just a little bit more. I really like how that looks. That was exactly what I had in mind. It doesn't usually work that way, but this time it worked out exactly the way I was envisioning it. So I'm just using my Tombow tape runner there to add adhesive to that piece with the cut file on it. And yes, it's mixed media, and it's not on a specialty paper at all. It's just regular basil cardstock. So there was a bit of buckling and warping that happened, but that's normal and natural. I'm going to take my heat gun just to dry it up a little bit, and that will flatten it a tiny bit, but I'm not too concerned about it. A lot of my pages that have mixed media end up being a little bit warped, but I find that when you slide it into the page protector, the page behind it usually holds it down, and it straightens out over time. You could put it under a big bunch of books if you were really worried about it, but I usually just go with it. Now, once I place my title in place, I just adore the look of this. you know, when you're designing something and you have this idea in mind, and oftentimes it just doesn't work out the way that you were expecting, and sometimes it works out even better. That's usually the way it goes, is, you know, you think one thing and then you get doing it and change your mind and like this other idea better. This is one of those times when the more this page came together, the more it was like what I had originally wanted to do. So I'm really, really pleased with it. And I love me some craft cardstock. So the fact that this title is mounted on that cut file that is the base in craft, it just warms up the page, which otherwise the page, I mean, yellow is a very warm color, but I just really love the addition of the craft on this page. And it just so happens that that green ink behind the word days just looks perfect. So I'm going to take a couple pictures there because it looks so great. I love it. Now let's start figuring out where my photo would go. I love that background below the brighter days so much that I had a moment of just thinking, maybe I shouldn't cover it up at all. Maybe I should just put my photo up in the sky. But no, I'm not going to. Here I go back and forth between deciding whether to use the black and white photo or the color photo. And like I said, at this point, I think I'm going to go with the color photo. The colors really do work with the page, and it looks great in color. I just liked the calmness that changing it to black and white. You'll see it in the photos at the end. And, you know, there's no right or wrong way. I even flirted with having them both on there. With the gray one behind. I thought that worked with my theme of the idea of gray leading to brighter days, but I ultimately decided to just go with it like this. So as I mentioned, these labels are going to be my main embellishment, and I thought about having the photo off over to the right-hand side of this, but I ultimately decided that I liked the symmetry of this. Now, I don't want it perfectly symmetrical, so I'm going to make sure that my labels are not symmetrical. So they're going to be off a little bit, and I am going to layer this extra label over here just to balance off those two that are over on the lower left-hand side. And I thought about adding a sticker here. This sticker had a phrase, I can't remember what it says, but it's something about, you know, you think it's not going to turn out, but it does turn out. But I'm not going to put that on my page after all. So I have 3 labels, and I'm also going to add 3 of these chipboard flares. These Pinkfresh Studio chipboard flares are amazing. They're the same size as flare badges that are more dimensional, but they're very flat, and I love them. They're very easy to layer with other things, and they're made out of chipboard, but they're a very thin chipboard, so they're super easy to work with. So there's my visual triangle. You can see it quite clearly there with the circles. They just, the 3 points frame in my photo and guide your eye around the photo. There's lots of people on both sides of the table, so it's one of those photos where the whole thing is important. And now I'm just going to add some enamel dots. And as usual, I'm going to fret a little bit about my selection of enamel dots. I'm picking a gray one for down here because there is gray in one of the chipboard flares from Pinkfresh. So I want to make sure that I put gray someplace else on the page so it's not just in one spot. So there you go. You can really see that visual triangle now in the 3 spots with the 3 flare badges. There's also 3 labels and 3 sets of enamel dots as well. My journaling here, I'm just handwriting it. I'm just writing unevacuated in time for Liv's birthday celebration. And I'll just underline it so it feels anchored to the page. I'm going to take my roller date stamp, and I'm going to use my Lawn Fawn Narwhal ink and just stamp the date. And then I also added some ghost stamping underneath of it just to make it look casual and officey. You might notice that there's a blob of green ink over on the far right hand side. I'm just going to take my my Jelly Roll 10 pen and just cover that up. It's not going to perfectly cover it up. It just makes your eye less drawn to it. So it makes it so that it's more of a subtle little hint of green over there. So before I share the photos, just a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. These folks help make this channel happen, so big thanks to all of them. Patrons get early ad-free access to some of my process videos and real-time unedited versions of all of my videos. They also get a monthly live stream and behind the scenes videos of my room and my process. And thanks to you also for watching. I encourage you to share, comment, and like my video because it really does help me and help my channel. So here are those photos. As you can see, I did switch out the photo and I really love how it looks with the black and white photo. It really helps my mixed media pop and all of those beautiful cut files and titles and everything. So thanks so much for watching. Check out any of these other videos if you're interested in seeing them. Subscribe to my channel, and if you want a Brighter Days kit for your own self, check out the link in the information below. Have a great scrappy week.